The opinions expressed on the following audio program are solely those of the host and the guests. Burner Podcast is an independently produced, not-for-profit show and is not associated with the Burning Man organization or its subsidiaries. The views expressed are not representative of the entire Burning Man community and are presented here for entertainment purposes only. In short, calm the fuck down. It's just a podcast.
All right, episode number 9. It's the 9th episode. It's the 9th wonder of the podcasting world. Except it's so completely not that. All it is episode number 9. Hey, anyway, just kind of getting ready right now, grabbing some things around the studio because we're heading down to see Schpungle tonight. You might be familiar with Schpungle. It's some crazy psychedelic, burnery, hippie, awesome stuff. It's at the House of Blues in downtown San Diego, which is a venue that I'm not a particularly huge fan of, but it's my good friend Myra's birthday, and she wanted to go, so that's why we're doing that. So I'm curious to check it out. I'm not a fan of the venue though, because they kind of lock you in there, and it's really beautiful and nice inside, but the sound is amazing, of course, but the getting locked in there and not being allowed to step outside to get some fresh air is a bit frustrating. So I hope Live Nation doesn't sue me for slander or something for saying that. I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to share my opinion. But anyway, let's get to the show. Normally, I start out the show with a little bit of a personal story that's, of course, connected to Burner World somehow. And what I'm hoping is that you're hearing that and you're kind of giggling to yourself, you're smiling and nodding along to it, like, okay, yeah, that's right, I've experienced things like that, or oh, that's cute. I'm hoping that's what's happening. It would really suck if all you're doing is just skipping past it. But you know what? Maybe that's why I make the openings varying lengths of time, so you can't tell how long it's going to be. Today's might be 25 minutes, or it might be 5. But it'll probably just be like 5. So here's the quick thing that I was going to tell you about. A couple of weekends ago, I'm a filmmaker, for those of you who don't know, and I am also a photographer, and I do a lot of music videos. And a couple of weeks ago, I was putting together and executing a music video for my creative partner, whose name you've probably heard mentioned on the show a couple of times. He goes by the name of Kill C-Ray. And he has this really amazing song that has just been released called Let It Rain. And the title comes from a sample that he uses on the track, which is Alan Watts speaking. And I don't remember which one of his talks it is, but it's really, really cool to see how much of that sort of enlightened philosophy spreading into all kinds of scenes. And then here's this song that's just very like boom, back, boom, kind of hip hop track. And it's got this kind of like funk psychedelic kind of sound to it. It's produced by a very well-known producer in Hollywood, LA area, named Loudon Beats. I believe he's currently touring Europe right now with his sister Reverie, who is also a very well-known female MC. So anyway, this song samples Alan Watts, and so for the feeling of the song, I remember I initially came up with the thought that it needs to have some sort of a kind of funkadelic, I just made up a word, a psychedelic kind of funk kind of feel to it, and I kept sort of seeing the color red. And I had a location lined up, but then the person whose home we were going to shoot at canceled last minute, and I threw it out there to the universe. And by the universe, I mean Facebook. And my good friend Bryson suggested that we use his basement. And mind you, I hadn't told Bryson anything about what I was visualizing for the video. All he knew is that I was looking for kind of like a 70s-ish kind of feel. And I go to check out his spot for the first time. Well, actually, it was the second time. I just couldn't remember it because the last time I was there was a Halloween party and I was, 25 sheets to the wind. And it's perfect. It's red. It's gorgeous. It's amazing. So I'm excited. The video's coming together. The universe is putting it all together, as it keeps doing, by the way. I've just learned to just let the art go and let the universe put it together. And the universe has been doing that. It has not been letting me down. And it was amazing. So Anyway, day of the video shoot comes around. I have like 20-something RSVPs from all kinds of people, aspiring actresses and models and, all these people in the film industry, or who are trying to make it in the film industry at least. And as well as a bunch of burners have RSVP'd to come help us out. And my very good friend, Kristen, who owns Frock U, which is a vintage clothing store. She's done styling for movies and all kinds of cool stuff. She gives me this massive rack of clothing, and we go to shoot the video. And on the day of, guess what happens? I know I've must have told this exact same kind of story like 7 times. Nothing but burners show up. Again. All these people that are desperately trying to get into the film industry, yada yada, they're supposedly taking their whole career path so seriously. They flake, and all the burners show up. And of course, it was fucking wonderful, and we had an amazing time, and we had a lot of fun shooting this great kind of party, kind of 70s funky kind of video, and it was a really, really good time. And there were 3 non-burners in the group, 2 of which said point blank to me, we need to become burners, because they were seeing how much fun we were all having. So that was very amusing for me. The third one was my favorite. That was my very good friend Jamal, one of my best friends. He's an attorney. He's very much kind of like your urbanite professional. And he's been spending more and more time around some of my circles. And after the video shoot, to my joy and delight, Jamal comes up to me and says, hey, when's the next, burner event that's happening? And I say, so funny you ask, Jamal. The next one is Electric Poncho. It's coming up in less than a month. We're having a meeting to organize and plan for it with our camp, currently known as Camp ASAP. The ASAP doesn't actually stand for anything, but and he says, yeah, I'm in. After spending the day with the crew, he decided he needs to go. He needs to be around these people. He needs to be around us, and he wants to explore and see what else is out there. And this is wonderful, huge news for me. I'm so happy to have him along. And little by little, this kind of stuff's been happening. More of my friends outside of the burner circles just keep seeing what an amazing time we're having, and how people just keep fucking showing up for shit. And they say, you know what? I want to be a part of that. It's infectious. It is. It just draws you in. There's no way that it wouldn't. You kind of have to be a little bit of a negative asshole, or, kind of closed off to be around a bunch of happy hippies and be like, nah, I don't like this. We had our meeting preparing for Electric Poncho the other night. It, of course, turned into a shit show. I don't know if we actually executed much. A lot of the time was spent with people one-upping each other on which tricks and gadgets are the best thing to do in order to keep your tent cool, and talking about shade structures and all kinds of crap like that. I mean, you guys know, whenever you sit around a bunch of burners, that's pretty much the conversation, is how they can make it a little more tolerable to be out there in the desert heat. So anyway, I'm psyched. Jamal's coming. Electric Poncho's happening. I'm excited. It's less than a month away, and I am absolutely unprepared. So let's get to today's guest. Today's guest is Lisa Dewey. Dewey is, producer Meg, when she booked Dewey on the show, told Dewey, I guess, that she is going to be the most woo-woo guest we've ever had. I don't know. That might be up in the air. Alice from episode number 3, she was pretty fucking woo-woo. It's also entirely possible, though, she sounded extra woo-woo because we just got hammered. But Dewey is pretty woo-woo. And I can tell you that before each show, producer Meg does send our guest a questionnaire to kind of give me some stuff to work off of, some information that I might need for the show itself. And it's just a couple of quick little questions. And of course, Dewey ended up writing an essay. And I remember reading it and just kind of giggling to myself the whole time as I was reading it. Just holy crap, this is a lot to write. Yeah, I think you thought a little too much about this Dewey, which is reason number 476 why Dewey is so fucking adorable. And you're going to see that in the following interview. So, of course, I get the questionnaire and there's all the stuff that I want to hit. And within, minutes, it goes off the rails, as the podcast always does. But the long and short of it is that Dewey is an energy medicine practitioner and a death doula. I had to look up how that's pronounced, by the way. Doula is spelled D-O-U-L-A. A death doula. You're probably wondering what that is. A death doula can do a variety of things, as I've learned. They kind of help facilitate the letting go of things. Possibly predominantly life. If you're dealing with death, you might bring in a death doula to kind of help the family deal with the upcoming loss that's inevitable. Now, it's not hospice. A death doula is more of a spiritual approach to things. And you know what? I'm just going to let Dewey go ahead and explain what that is. It's really, really fascinating. We spend a lot of time talking about health and the sort of the spiritual side of health and nutrition. She also co-organized TEDx, America's Finest City Women. So there's some nice feminist talk there. And it's a show about woo-woo shit like earthing and energy cleansing and women. We talk about women. One of my favorite subjects. But let's go ahead and get right to it. Let's get to Dewey. I go by Mr. Arash, even though nobody calls me Mr. Welcome to Burner Podcast.
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the life. There were plants and birds and rocks and things. There was sand and hills and rain. The first thing I met was the fly with the bugs and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can't remember your name, because there ain't no one for to give you no name.
But maybe not like specifically with somebody who works like in woo-woo fields. Like not like professional woo-woo.
Yeah.
I don't know. Alice was pretty woo-woo. That was like
Alice is pretty woo-woo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we made fun of that a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm more woo-woo than Alice.
Okay. Well, all right. We're gonna do a competition then. We're gonna figure that out right now.
Okay. See how this goes.
And that was anyway. That's what I was saying. Like I knew you were like, hey, let's grab dinner beforehand, and
Yeah.
I somehow like today I had my morning workout. Have you ever heard of November Project?
No.
Long story short, the listeners have already heard it, but it's basically a free morning workout. They have chapters and tribes all over the country. Cool. So they do it like Mondays and Wednesdays. And I went today and had my proper ass kicking. So I just had like this, like all this adrenaline and energy and serotonin and dopamine dump and everything. Mm-hmm. So in my head, I like full on had an interview with you and went through the whole thing. And I just completely, like, I was worried, like, half the day that I just, like, popped my load, like, way too early. And now I've got, like, nothing to interview you about because I already went through it in my head.
That's really funny.
But it's obviously not. It's like being invited to dinner and, like, eating a cheeseburger on the drive.
Yeah.
Didn't quite work.
Yeah.
But.
Well, especially when you realize I'm a little bit more of a complex human being than just that. Like, I'm not just.
No way. You're just a figment of my imagination. It's everything that happened in my head. That's all it was.
Right. That's funny.
But I, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like you'd kind of appreciate that because, and again, I could be wrong, but I would, if I had to take a guess, I'd guess that you are somebody who has a lot of conversations with yourself inside of your own head.
All the time.
Yeah.
Me and my multiple personalities are constantly having a whole dialogue, and I'm a Libra, so I'm the scales, and we're trying to constantly balance things out and make sure everything's like equally proportioned and things like that. So yeah, there's conversations in my head constantly trying to make sure everything's covered and good to go. So yeah.
What kind of stuff do you talk to yourself about? What was the last conversation you had with yourself?
Oh my God, I have conversations with myself all the time.
Do you ever get into fights with yourself?
Yes. I get fights with myself all the time because there's this like brave, not taking any shit, going out there doing big, huge, bold things person inside me. And then there's this, what the fuck are you thinking? That was so dumb person who also lives inside me.
Yeah.
So it's like, especially, I was talking about this earlier with someone. There's like those moments of like a vulnerability hangover where you're like super vulnerable with somebody and you have this beautiful moment of like deep, profound connection. And then you leave and all of a sudden you're like, what the fuck did you just do? That was a horrible idea. Oh my God. And I like totally freak out. And the whole conversation starts about like, what were you thinking? So it happens. Yeah.
What's the regret that comes from being too vulnerable?
It's like a very elaborate self-defense mechanism. It says you're not supposed to do that because when you do that, something bad is going to happen. Or that beautiful, blissful moment, the other shoe's going to drop and something bad's going to happen. So it's this training that I don't even know where, I don't know where it came from in me. And I see it in tons of other people that we constantly do this to ourselves. And it's, I don't know how it got there, but it's there. And the more I'm aware of it, the more I try to be vulnerable and open about things, the more I see that pops up. And I'm like, no, it's okay. Like calming my little self inside. Like, you're all right.
Well, I feel like that's actually the majority of human beings on the planet.
Definitely.
Because we're kind of like, we come out of the womb very vulnerable, and then immediately we start to download information into our bodies to stop ourselves. Like, and that was, for me, that was like the biggest thing that really punched me in the gut when I came back from the playa, was how much people go out of their way to avoid eye contact. And that was like, that really was like the theme of my post Burning Man blues, was walking around and seeing how much people do that. And then I got into the thought process of like, well, I mean, it's because most people in the street are like trying to sell you something or trying to take advantage of you somehow. And you know, here's the thing. It's not most people. We create that perception because every time that happens, we file it away in our brain of like, oh, there's one person who just tried to do this. And then so from now on, I should be super careful whenever blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, and it's funny. So like we go through this and then eventually we come to a place in our lives where we're like, wait a minute, being vulnerable and being open is a beautiful thing and it makes you happier. So how can I find a way to find that balance to be able to do it, but still not get taken advantage of, still be smart.
Yeah. And that's an interesting thing. I never thought about that, but you're right. Leaving Burning Man is a perfect example of a vulnerability hangover. It's like we have this beautiful thing and it's so amazing and it's so profound and we open ourselves up in ways that we've never done before, and then you get home and the real world is like so different and colors don't seem as bright and things aren't blinking and everything's so different, and it's just like it hits you really hard, like that wasn't true, or that, like I said, the other shoe's dropping, and it's like, okay, well, what do we do with that? How do we support ourselves during that moment and like keep reinforcing that no, what you just experienced is real, can keep going, is continuing to go. We just have to actively cultivate it.
Yeah. It takes a lot of effort. That's what I started doing, is that one of the things that I had started doing a couple of years before getting involved in the community was learning about eye contact. And not shying away, like not looking at somebody and immediately looking away the minute they look at you. And so the thing that I added to that after my Burning Man experience was, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to smile. I'm not going to only keep eye contact with people and not look away. Like it's like a dominating thing. But on top of that, I'm going to like give a big, huge smile. And worst case scenario, they're like, who is that fucking weirdo?
Right? Like, oh.
But that's not like our fault. Like it's not our fault that they have baggage.
Well, and majority of the time when you do that, people smile back. And then I always do that because I'm a freakishly happy person. So I walk away and I'm like, yay, I brought them over to the dark side.
Yeah.
But like, they end up smiling, and then I get to genuinely smile. And those moments when they're like looking away, it's because they've been trained to look away. I was trained to look away. You were trained to look away. So we're just trying to retrain ourselves to do it differently.
Yeah. And the conversation that we were speaking about, I mean, this kind of comes back to that constant like internal dialogue. You know, with mindfulness meditation, you learn to try to shut that down. For me, at least, I went through a process where, like, I spend a lot of time in daydream world, and most of it is awesome.
Yeah,
I'm
so
like
good.
the celebrity.
So good. Oh my God, my daydream world's awesome.
Oh yeah, everything's great. But then like that can absolutely pull you down into a rabbit hole, because like you might have some sort of experience in day-to-day life that is not as pleasant as the dream world you've created. So there's flip sides of the coin. Like on one side, you can have like the most pleasant daydreams ever, but on the other side, you can be like getting into arguments with yourself. And in order to shut down one of them, you kind of have to shut down the other, like slow down the other one as well. You can't only have the happy stuff and never the negative stuff.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing is both of them are keeping you from actually living your life. So you're not actually touching anything, feeling anything, experiencing anything, smelling it, tasting it. Like you're just playing out different scenarios in your head, be it good or bad. So it's like when you shut down the good and bad in your head, you actually get to be here living this life more, which that seems pretty interesting to me.
It's very amusing because we are in this community where like meditation is extremely common. Like everyone meditates. And yet it is also a community where if you go onto like a message board or an email exchange, there is a never ending stream of people just thinking everything out loud and arguing with themselves in like one email. So I was wondering, like a lot of us have this like on overdrive. Like, do you try to stay aware of that? Do you think like you've made progress on it? How does that work? Like what's going on inside Dewey's brain?
Yeah, I have a pretty active meditation practice, and that helps a lot. And multiple different types of meditation, because I found that different types do different things for me. So there's my mindfulness practice literally makes me less ditzy. So it's like, that's just, everybody wins when I'm less ditzy, let's be honest. And so and in doing that, I noticed the craziest stuff that I never noticed before. So it's like when I'm in my head, like, blah, 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 and like playing out all these scenarios and, you know, arguing with myself and, you know, doing all this stuff, I miss the coolest shit. Like sitting this morning outside, there was like all these dewdrops on the spider web. And so the sun was like beaming through the trees and hitting these spider webs just perfectly and like lit them up. And it was the most tiny, subtle thing that blew my mind. And if I wasn't being mindful and in this present moment, I would have totally missed it.
Absolutely.
And then I can sit there and watch the little spider do his thing. And, you know, I'm just sitting in the backyard listening to the birds. All of a sudden, the whole entire world around me is just completely transformed. Yeah.
And that's definitely something that comes with awareness. And my experience has been that it's also a symptom of higher levels of serotonin and dopamine. Because as someone who has battled quite a bit of depression and anxiety, like a lot of people, by the way, in our community have, like
so much so.
A lot of us, like we started to like, we either found the community in that help, like, well, I'm sure the community helped everybody, but a lot of us kind of started on this journey, I feel like, and then we eventually ended up here. And so like I've had friends that I've talked to who are very uncomfortable with how much conversation there is about depression and anxiety. And I'm like, no, but that's just like, because, you know, we're the freaks and geeks. And that's something that came because we didn't quite plug into whatever, quote unquote, I'm doing the quoties, mainstream society does. But that is something that comes out of it, is that serotonin production, that dopamine production increases as you meditate more, as you eat better, you know, and increase, and just basically focus on becoming a better person. And sometimes it almost gets like overwhelming. Like right now, I feel like this, like the excitement that I've been feeling all day, it's really been overwhelming to the point like I'm like, I kind of want to turn this down right now.
Yeah. You're like, this is good, but how do you
Yeah.
balance it? Because you don't want a crash that's equally as deep as you just went high.
Yeah.
So
It hasn't happened to me in a long time. You know what? It happened when I tried going vegan. I had this full-on crash, which is a perfect segue into more of what you do. I went vegan for about a month, and it really just gave me this like crushing depression, this withdrawal, and I felt like my body felt bouncier because I think I've generally discovered that's something that happens when you do like a switch in eating, you do something healthier. But the depression like really just came out of nowhere, and it terrified me because I haven't had that in years.
Well, on a like basic science level, what probably was happening for you is that you had major drops in your vitamin D and magnesium levels. So if you're eating vegetables most of our vegetables that we get are coming from really depleted soil. So it doesn't have the same mineral content that, that it should have. So if you're not eating the the farmer and the farmer's doing all the things to amend the soil and it's all organic, then you're taking away from the things that your body needs. So you're not getting the magnesium and mineral support and then the vitamin B that you would need from or had been getting from the meat. And then add on top, going vegan makes you do a pretty massive detox. So you're detoxing, you're not getting enough vitamin B and you're not getting enough magnesium. It's no wonder the depression set in. Vitamin B and magnesium deficiencies are two of the biggest reasons for depression and anxiety. Like it just throws off your system.
You work for a nutrition organization? I
work for the Price Pottinger Nutrition Foundation. And they're a 63-year-old nutrition foundation, and they are founded, we house all the archives for all the like pioneers of nutrition. So anybody who's studied health and nutrition for the last 100 years, we have all of their research, which is pretty awesome. And the man, Weston Price, who it's based off of, he went around and studied indigenous tribes to look at what were they eating, what's going on, that these tribes have no health problems. Like none of the health problems that we have in our society, they have. They have no diabetes, no heart disease, no cancer, no Alzheimer's and dementia, nothing. And it's like, he was a dentist and he wanted to figure out how come they don't have cavities? How come they have broad enough arches that their wisdom teeth have plenty of room to come in? What is going on here?
How long ago did he do this?
He did this like at the turn of the century.
Okay. Yeah, I've read about him, I think.
And none of his research can be replicated because all of those tribes have now been exposed to our modern diet.
Yeah.
So it's really, really valuable, rare stuff. It's pretty amazing. And he just kept looking like, okay, they have a really good balance of fruits, vegetables, and meat. And it's just like, as soon as we start throwing in the man-made stuff, people start getting sick and things start happening.
So did he start the organization, or was it started named after him?
It was his memorial foundation.
Okay.
So
what is the mission statement?
To get out information about health and wellness.
So like, what is like basically like what does that entail as far as like what you do?
Well, my job itself is super boring. I hope my boss never listens to this.
Yeah.
My job itself is not actually what I'm passionate about. I'm just like the data entry person. I do all the like bookkeeping. But what it stands for in terms of health and nutrition, I really love. It's looking at all the different things that keep a person healthy. And that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in how does your physical body, your emotional body, and your spiritual body overlap to create health, to create a happy, well-balanced person. Because people, when they're working on all three of those things and all three of those things are in balance, we show up in the world really, really different. And it's like, we can fight your depression with food all we want, but if we're not getting to the like spiritual component of it, it's like a three-legged table. It's still going to fall over.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can we look at all the different aspects? What's going on with your energetic, emotional body? What's going on with your physical body? And how does that work? And so at Price Pottinger, I get to look at, okay, what's going on? Is there stuff in the water that you're drinking, the chemicals? So how's your water affecting you? How's the food? What are different, like, there's this thing called earthing where it's literally, so this is
Earthing.
really earthing.
Okay.
They actually, because science and technology is amazing,
Mm-hmm.
they're actually able to figure out the like what happens when you're barefoot on the earth
Mm-hmm.
is an exchange of electrons and neutrons, and they're able to figure that out and count it. And so by physically connecting and touching the earth, there is a balancing that happens. So like your body's infinite wisdom knows, oh, I have too many electrons and not enough neutrons, and it balances out with the earth.
Okay. Wait, so
I know, it's a
You
really
make
weird
people-
concept. I'm like just learning about it too. So
no, this is fascinating. So do you make people walk around barefoot and then connect electrodes to them? Like, how does that work?
the whole science behind it, I don't do that. I don't know how that all
Sure.
works. But yeah, they can actually document like a change. If you're feeling super achy, you can go out and just stand barefoot in the ground, like on the earth, not on the cement, not in like in your house, but literally touching the earth, and you will be less achy.
Huh.
It's fascinating.
How long do you do that for?
I think it depends on how out of balance your body is. But it's like, these are things that we never had to think about because we just evolved being monkeys who walked around barefoot,
Yeah.
and we would absorb magnesium through the bottoms of our feet. So we wouldn't get depression because we were connected to the earth. So we would balance out our I don't know why I keep stumbling on that one. We would balance out like all the different levels. So it's
Yeah.
like your minerals, your electromagnetic systems, and and it just feels good.
Yeah.
It's like a little exfoliating.
Wow, that is really interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
They, I feel like this is, and I wonder if this is something that your organization pays attention to I don't feel like we talk enough in our society about the psychological factors that goes into weight loss. There's a lot of different movements, and I mean, obviously, like there's things that happen to our bodies, all the food that we're intaking. There's a lot of crap in our foods. There is various chemicals and things flowing through our bodies on a regular basis, even our own human bodies that, maybe some people have lower metabolism, some people have higher metabolism, all this stuff. And through my own weight loss journey, I decided early on to focus on the psychological factors as to like what causes what. And most recently, I sort of I got really sick of discipline. I just got really sick of it. I got sick of just having discipline all the time. And when I started sort of focusing on trying to lose weight, I was like at 298 pounds. And it was like pure blubber. I didn't work out or anything. And I just started from there. And that's when I was like, I don't know, 19 or 20, when I started paying attention to what I'm eating. And I discovered over and over throughout the years that there's just a lot of things that are in our own psychology that I feel like society doesn't pay as much attention to because we get really fixated on the superficial aspect. Like, let's just get skinny and good looking.
Right.
I want to fit into a bikini.
Right.
And I wonder, like, if there's, like, how much of that discussion is being had in the nutrition world, in your opinion? Do you think it's a fair amount?
I think it depends on who you're talking to. I think for me, it's a no-brainer. Obviously, like I said, your energetic, your emotional, and your physical body are so connected that without one, it all falls over.
That's definitely one of the downsides that I noticed is, like, when I started working out, there is this general kind of feeling that a lot of the more intelligent people that I know have, that like hitting the gym is like kind of a meathead thing. And I was like, no, it's meditation. You're
Can be, yeah.
You're touching your soul to your body. You're getting connected.
Well, and again, I feel like the theme is like, how did we used to do things back before we evolved into what we are now? We didn't have to work out because it was all, you'd be climbing a tree and, walking around and chasing some deer, and like that was just how it was. You didn't have to think about it. You just did your thing, and that was your exercise. And now we've turned it into this regimented, like, you have to do this thing and you have to burn these many calories, and it's just, I hate to break it to you, I'm really busy. I have a lot going on. I don't have time to count all that shit. I don't have time to keep track of it all. I have to keep track of like 100 different things. So this is not helpful to me. But if you just say like, hey, Lisa, I would really just love to go for a walk with you. You mean we're just going to walk and talk and hang out and shoot the shit? Yeah, I totally want to do that.
Yeah.
That seems like a great idea. You frame that as exercise and I have to work out. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah, now it's a task.
Yeah. So it's like, there's that component of it. I also think, I mean, weight is such a great self-defense mechanism. Like in a lot of ways, it protects you. It keeps you grounded. Like if you're an airy fairy person who tends to float away, having a few extra pounds actually like physically holds your body down to the ground more. It's something that, you know, you can keep people away. There's a lot of different things that it actually serves a really practical purpose. Mm-hmm. So it's like, if you can figure out what's going on there and that emotional component and that spiritual component, what void is that filling? Yeah. What do you not want to feel that you get with food? Like, okay, I'm going to stuff myself so I don't have to feel this other thing. Yeah. So it's like, there's so many questions that we could ask as to like, what's going on here? Yeah,
there's, I had a friend of mine point out, my friend Helen in LA, amazing, very intelligent person. She was, we're having a conversation about how she had noticed that over time, people that have a lot of weight struggles, her theory is that it's very much connected to sexual abuse from a younger age. That's something that I've started sort of stumbling on and running into, like more and more. Little by little, people are starting to talk about, like, is this like a common thread? Not to say, obviously, everybody has different situations and different reasons, but it is a common thread. That's one of the things that I have started to sort of like start to kind of look at with side eye. Like, it's almost like your body wants to create more distance between you and other people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that could be trauma in general. It doesn't have to be specifically related to...
It's just that sexual abuse tends to be one of the most common.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we live in a world that hasn't quite figured out how to navigate that issue. But I think trauma in general is a really big conversation. What do we do? How do we cope with it? What do we do with this when it happens? How do we support someone who's going through it? How do we support ourselves? Yeah. This is all stuff that, you know, I think I commend this community for really taking the time to ask those questions of saying, like, standing up and saying, how do we prevent this from happening to someone else? How do I support my loved one who's experiencing this? It's like, well done, burners. We're actually having the conversation. Yeah.
Especially for me, like as a Middle Easterner coming from a culture where nobody talks about that shit.
That's
a big deal. I mean, I started journaling my food about, I want to say like 2 months ago. Mm-hmm. It's been like 2 months. And I decided that I'm not going to keep track of like calories and stuff. I'm just going to write why I'm eating what I'm eating, how it's making me feel, where's that feeling coming from, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And it has been the most effortless weight loss I've ever had.
I believe it.
It's been amazing.
Yeah.
And it's because a lot of it is like, a lot of the patterns that I noticed personally has been that I was still in the habit of stuffing my face with certain foods, which at one time were pretty much like drugs. Mm-hmm. It was like, I'm depressed. I need these drugs. They make me happy.
Oh, it's totally, it is. When you're using it to numb, it is an addiction. It is a form of addiction.
Yeah. And I'm not that person anymore. I'm not depressed anymore. So like even today, like I went to go get brunch and I sat down and ate maybe half my meal. Mm-hmm. I'm like, dude, I am just stuffed. I can't eat anymore. Mm-hmm. Whereas like the old me would have just kept eating. Mm-hmm. It's been a really fascinating, and one of the big sort of epiphanies that I had was a couple of years ago. We were doing a show, my creative team and I, in some part of LA that was just like really, really bad neighborhood. I don't remember where it was. But it's like 2 a.m. We're getting back to the hotel room and we are just starving. And the only place we can find that's open is this Arco gas station. And they have an AM PM, and they have like, those burgers and hot dogs in there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God. So we grab a couple of those, and I'm eating it, and I'm like, holy shit. This is the food that I used to eat in elementary school because I was on like the free lunch program with all the other poor kids. And I'm like, oh my God, this is what we feed our children. And it was terrifying. And it immediately reminded me like of what a dark time that was in my life. Like I couldn't really speak English. And I remember there was just a lot of like bullying and horrible time dealing with parents' divorce. And basically we had like our 45-minute lunch break. So like you race out after a day of misery and getting bullied and depression, race out to wait in line for like 15 minutes. And then we get those like little square pizzas and little burgers and stuff.
Yeah.
And I would sit there and stuff my face, and that moment was pure heaven.
Yeah.
It was pure dopamine. You're basically taking a child with mental health issues, and the figures of authority are like, here, take this cocaine. That's basically all it was. There was like no nutritional value to the shit that we were eating.
Yeah.
And this is what our society does.
Yeah.
It's just faster and cheaper. I mean, I don't know. It's mind-blowing.
And then there's that point where you're like, well, this isn't doing it for me anymore. I'm still depressed. The food's not making me feel better. So, excuse me. So how do I move to something heavier, harder? How can I up the game?
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, really? This is the pattern we're setting for ourselves. How do I numb it? How do I feel better about it? How do I avoid?
What do you think is like one very simple change that people could like immediately make to see some results? Like what would be like your first piece of advice?
Okay, this is super cheesy, and I
like cheese.
I love cheese.
It's the hard thing about going vegan is a cheese thing.
Yeah.
I was fine with it. Like I loved vegan food. That's the funny thing.
Vegan food's really good.
Loved it.
I totally love vegans. I totally love veganism. I just don't know if long term it's sustainable for humans. All of the research that I've seen working in a place that has 100 years of it, we evolved eating veggies and meat. Like
we're
we
omnivores.
need some sort of animal protein, animal fat. And I don't know if the way monocrops of corn, wheat, and soy go, I don't know if that is going to make... If that's going to just make things worse. Are we killing more animals doing monocrops like that than we are eating them? I mean, I'm not for factory farms. And
what is a monocrop?
A monocrop is when you have acres and acres and acres of just one crop. So just as far as the eye can see, corn or wheat or soy.
And why is that a bad thing?
Nowhere in nature does nature want to do that.
Okay.
So if you look anywhere in the world and look at what Mother Nature's doing, she's like, she loves diversity. She loves diversity. She's like, I want, this plant with this plant and that plant. And the funny thing is one plant pulls this nutrient out and the other plant puts it back in.
Yeah.
So it's like just how like we breathe out carbon dioxide, monoxide.
Dioxide?
Someone's laughing at me on the internet now.
Right. You guys know
then
we're
we
talking
breathe
about CO2.
in the oxygen. It's like that. What our waste is a tree's breath, and their waste is our breath. That is all throughout nature. So if you just have one thing, everything starts to die. It kills off everything.
And that's the hard part. Is that like is there hard science that would argue that that's a bad thing?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the reason that's when like pests become a major problem and you need more pesticides and different things like that, is because the thing that blocks, so like there's certain types of plants that if you plant them around other plants, then it keeps the bugs away. It's a natural, pesticide, sans toxins. So like Mother Nature put in those checks and balances, whereas if you just have a whole field of just one thing, then whatever comes in and destroys it all and eats it all, and so then you have to find ways to genetically modify it or to spray it or to do different things. And it's just like we have to try to stay ahead of the game when it's like, well, the game has already been figured out.
Yeah,
like it's
yeah.
already been done for us. So
Yeah, that's I mean, like on my weight loss journey, one of the major lessons that I got was try to eat as close to nature as possible.
yeah,
You know, like instead of drinking orange juice, eat the orange.
yeah,
And so it's interesting because what you're describing is that in a lot of ways, like the game is fixed already. Like long before the food ever even gets into my refrigerator, it's already been fucked with.
mm-hmm.
Oh, that sucks.
Well, yes and no. So my cheesy thing that I always ask myself is,
I like cheese.
is this I know, so good. I love cheese too. Is this God-made or man-made?
Mm.
Is this the way God, and by God, spirit, universe, whatever you want to call it, is this the way it wanted to get to me? Or did humans spray it or force it to eat something it didn't want to eat? Or like cows don't like to eat corn. They eat corn because that's literally all we put in front of them and they're starving.
Yeah.
So it's like, what does that animal actually want to eat? How does that plant actually want to grow? Are we processing the shit out of it? Then I probably don't want to eat it. So that's my check. Is this God-made versus man-made? Okay, I want to eat the God-made.
Yeah. And like, I think the argument in those situations comes from at what point do we cross? Where's the line? Because I had Jake Anderson here for interview last week, so I think by the time listeners have heard this episode, they heard that one. And we talked about how Neil deGrasse Tyson, like he is somebody who we love and respect and is awesome in a million ways, but he thinks that argument is kind of ridiculous because we started genetically modifying foods long before modern day technology.
Well, there's a difference between like crossbreeding and actually genetically modifying. So genetically modifying, you're actually going in and cutting out DNA strands and replacing them with other strands. So that's like very different than like my backyard, my orange tree and my lemon tree, they really like each other and they get frisky and I end up with loranges. Like literally the top half is orange and the bottom half is a lemon.
Yeah.
And they're like
slutty little lemon tree.
Right? It's super slutty. But they're right next to each other. That's just, that totally different than going in and splicing and dicing and like putting things in and playing God. That's
Ooh, that just made me think about how weird it's going to be. Like just even like cloning. Like what's going to happen with that? Because I mean, honestly, like I'm certain that there are places in the world that we just don't know about yet, where they have been experimenting with human cloning.
Totally.
Yeah, there's no fucking way that, because we can do it.
Yeah.
Just supposedly, they've been like, let's not do it, but that's bullshit. So like I wonder, because you're right, that is a common general thing that we've just observed, is that the more you get in there and mess with things, the more you try to play God, the uglier it gets. It's like, I wonder, like, what kind of humans come out of that? Like, that's a little scary.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I went down a dark place there.
No, yeah. Right. And yeah. I mean, I think humans have a tendency to go really, really, really well-intentioned into something. Really well-intentioned. And not realize the ramifications of our actions. No. But we have to learn those lessons, unfortunately. And we take those bad things and we do really good things with them later. I mean, so a good example of that would be, since we're on the health and food and nutrition topics, I would say, so cows love to eat grass. That's what they eat, right?
Yeah.
And I know people are probably listening to this thinking, it's not sustainable to do grass-fed. That's a whole other argument. And in some ways, yes, you're right. So I'll just say that. But cows love to eat grass. When cows are cruising around eating grass, they know there's different types of grass in that grass. They know exactly what to eat to kind of self-medicate themselves. So they're healthy. You never have to pasteurize their milk. As soon as we start forcing them to eat things like corn, they start producing, they become sick. The cow becomes sick and starts producing sick milk. Yeah. So rather than us saying, put the cow back out in the field and let the cow eat what the cow wants to eat, we say, we have to solve this problem. And we are kind of fucking genius. Yeah. So we come up with pasteurization. Louis Pasteur, he starts coming in. He's like, oh, we pasteurize milk, right? So we all start pasteurizing the milk. What we don't realize is that when we pasteurize milk, we kill the enzyme that enables our body to digest it. So now I'm drinking this glass of milk. My stomach can't digest it because that thing's dead. And now all of a sudden I'm like, why does milk do all these weird things to me? And why do I feel sick? And I guess I can never drink milk again. I just can't do dairy. I'm just banned from dairy forever, which is devastating. When you get a healthy cow producing healthy milk and healthy cheese, you don't have to pasteurize it, so you can have it raw. And all of a sudden, people don't have problems.
Yeah, yeah. And then on top of that, there's also like just our treatment of animals and how much that adds into the foods. Like you have the milk and the cheese that's like coming from these poor animals that are just being like stuffed into cages and being treated like shit.
Terrible.
And all of that, I mean, yes, that's most definitely like gets into the food, that anxiety, that heartbreak.
Yeah. So now it's depressed. You're eating it. You're depressed. It's like, oh wow, great. We're so smart. We've done all of this mechanizing and modern advancements in science and technology. Okay, well now we're all feeling a little depressed.
Yeah.
This is problematic.
But it happens so slowly that we don't notice it enough. Because it's not jarring. It's not like one day you're happy and the next day you're depressed and you look at the milk and you're like, oh, it's the fucking milk.
Right.
You know?
Well, and it's not just the milk. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's the milk. It's the way we engage in community. It's the way we detach from community. It's like, I went, before I came here, I went and had dinner by myself. And I'm sitting in the restaurant and I'm so me. So I'm like, I'm going to make the best of this and this is going to be great. And I'm looking around and watching everybody. And it's like half the people there are on their cell phone.
Yeah.
And it's like, I had to fight the urge to be on my cell phone. I wanted to just be in that present moment and enjoy it and take it in and laugh at myself at how freaking difficult that was. To just sit and have dinner with myself. I'm great company. I should be totally stoked to have dinner with myself. And it was like, taste the food, enjoy the food, be present, watch what's going on. It was really hard.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm trained to detach when I'm eating. I'm trained to detach when I'm in community because I'm just on my phone. I mean, there's all these different layers that pile on and pile on and pile on. And then you're like, why am I depressed?
Yeah.
Why do I feel so much anxiety? Oh, because I have no idea what to expect when I walk into something.
Yeah. Yeah. Constantly multitasking. And mindful eating, that's, I try to do that every morning for breakfast. Is that I'll make my eggs or whatever after my morning jog and I'll just sit there and eat them and try to like really chew it and feel it and taste it. You know, and that alone, that's like one of the other, 45 techniques that anybody can just implement to start getting like feeling healthier, losing some weight and knowing what you're eating. And one of the big things that happens is that you eat some things that you used to eat and think like you liked it, but after you mindfully eat it, you're like, this is kind of gross.
Yeah. Yeah. My favorite is pomegranates. Pomegranates, oh man, they are the most frustrating thing in the world to eat because you just have to do one at a time. And that's so tiny. It's like really savor that tiny little pop.
Yeah. Wait, are you talking about like straight out of the fruit pomegranate?
Yeah, straight out of the fruit pomegranate.
See, because I pop them open. I come from a people that know a thing or two about pomegranates. Let me tell you. So you just kind of pop it open and then like eat like 30 of them at the same time.
Yeah.
And then you kind of have like some of the, whatever the cartilage is.
And then you get the spoon and you can smack them all out.
The spoon is an idea, yes.
But to use pomegranate as a mindful eating practice is so painful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so good, but it's so painful.
Yeah. Pistachios also a food of my people. But that's
apparently your people really want to be mindful.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm certain that's the whole reason they started doing that.
Right.
So let me tell you something, by the way. Pretty much every guest that I have on the show, like, downplays what they do. And then it turns out that they're, like, absolutely fucking amazing experts in, like, a certain field. And we end up having an hour conversation about it.
That's good. I would not consider myself, I mean, I work for a nutrition foundation, but I would not say that's, like, my thing.
Yeah.
It fascinates me and I love it. But it's, like, again, it's just, like, one of those three, making the hand signals like people can see me. It's just one of the three legs of the things that I actually really love, so.
3 legs. So what's the second leg?
Well, so I would say I love watching people heal. Like, healing is the seat of the chair, and physical body, so health and nutrition is one of those, and then there's like the emotional and spiritual components to that.
Yeah.
So,
So you are, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, a death doula.
I
serve as
I was gifted with the title of a death doula.
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 Okay. So birth doula is somebody who helps the birthing process. I imagine death doula is the opposite.
Well, so a doula by definition is a woman who serves. And so it's any place where you see that you need to be plugged in to help support in a certain arena. And
it has to be a woman?
I don't know. That's just what the definition says.
Okay.
Yeah, actually it says a woman.
Can I be a death doulo?
I don't know the answer to that, but I totally want to find out now.
Okay.
I mean, maybe, probably. I mean, we're burners. We could do whatever we want.
Yeah,
yes.
fuck them. I'm
You
gonna
could
be
do-
I'm gonna be a doulo.
I'm gonna say yes.
I'm a conversation doulo.
I'm gonna have somebody write that wiki page right now so we can
Yeah.
get the definition out there. It's like
Between,
gender
I'm
neutral.
Sure.
Yeah.
Between the two of us, we can make that happen. Let's go
Yeah.
call out everybody who's not making gender neutral things.
We're gonna have Finn calling in here to tell us exactly
Yeah.
how we could do that. So
Oh, yeah,
she's
most
good like
definitely.
that.
She's the expert in that field.
Totally. Yeah.
So, explain what a death doula does to
Okay,
listeners.
so I was gifted with that
I said
title.
doula. I'm sorry.
Doula.
Doula.
I didn't get to that.
You know what? Just duel.
I'm a DD.
Yeah. DD.
So I was gifted with that title when I was helping support my grandparents through the last chapter of their life. And pretty much what I did was just showed up and supported in whatever role I needed to. Sometimes it was, making them a meal. Sometimes it was helping pay the bills or going to the bank. Sometimes it was literally just sitting and talking. And then it also went into, supporting my parents and my brother as we all kind of went through this transition together. And what we saw was it got to be a very joyful ending. I mean, it was super hard. Don't get me wrong. It was super hard. But what it really highlighted for me is that when you get the opportunity to practice small deaths, then when large death comes, it's less traumatic.
Small deaths such as?
So it's kind of a reframing of anything that's letting go. So it could be the death of a job. So you're leaving that career and starting something new. It can be the death of a relationship, saying goodbye to this person, maybe on good terms, maybe not, but like letting that die and be released so that something new can come. And so it's creating an awareness and an intentionality and also a lot of like ritual and ceremony into those things so that when it happens, it's not, like I said, it's not so traumatizing. When I first was talking to my brother about this, he was like, Lisa, what are you thinking? You do not talk about death. That is like politics and religion.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. You're wrong. Every one of us is gonna die. Every one of us is gonna experience death. That is like, there's no avoiding that reality.
It's the one thing that every single one of us has in common, and yet it's like the most terrifying thing for most people.
Yeah. Pooping and dying.
No,
pretty much.
girls don't poop.
Yep. Nope. See, you don't talk about
Obviously,
it. It doesn't
don't
happen.
talk about pooping.
Pooping and dying. We don't talk about it, but everybody does it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, by not talking about it, we're creating this terrifying thing that people don't know what to do with and they don't like and they're so uncomfortable and it's totally off the table. And I don't think it should be that way. And so I want to support people in, going through those tears, those anger, the, all the different emotions that come up as a result of when you lose something or when you let something go. So it's like, so we practice those small ones so then when the real one comes, you know what to do. You kind of have practiced it,
So this is part of the process of serving as a death doula, is walking people through the little deaths. Mm-hmm. Can I say, by the way, just a side note, I which has nothing to do with this conversation, but I believe like the French word for orgasm is like le petit mouette.
The little death.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's amazing
Yeah.
when you kind of think about it.
Kind of is. It's like your most vulnerable moment.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to come in and kill me, that's the moment to do it. I'm done.
You're like, I'm so happy right now. I can't move.
Oh no, I'm dying like for real. This sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
burnerpodcast.com.
All right, ladies and gents, and everything in between, it's time for that quick little break that we always take on the show, just so you can catch your breath from the intensity. I know it's so intense. You need a second. So I can tell you about these events that if you are listening to the show later on down the line, you've already missed. But hopefully it just makes you feel like home. You're hearing about these cool events, and maybe you can prepare for them next year if something catches your attention. May 7th is Ignite SoCal Fire Flow Conference. Ignite is it's spelled N-I-G-H-T, by the way. I don't know if the spelling's different, but it's got lowercase and uppercase things. But Ignite SoCal Fire Flow Conference is a 3-day flow conference in Southern California designed to provide a fun, educational, and community environment for spinners from all over the world. Only 500 people can attend. There are over 137 workshops in 3 days. It looks like it's a pretty amazing event. If you're into the flow arts, you should definitely check this out. More information at facebook.com/Ignite Fire Flow Conference. Ignite, I-G-N-I-G-H-T, Fire Flow Conference. All right, that's May 7th. May 9th is the Cacao Fest 2015. I had to look up the pronunciation for that. I just thought it was Cocoa Fest, but it's connected to Cocoa. Embark on a day-long journey around the world exploring the cacao jungles, I like saying that, of Mesoamerica, Indonesia, Africa, and South America as we dive into alluring flavors, music, art, history, and ritual tradition. It's at the World Beat Center here in San Diego. Now, there's other cacao fests, I believe, in different parts of the country, but this one I just happen to have the one here in San Diego. The World Beat Center, if you are familiar with San Diego, is in Balboa Park. It's this massive venue. Lots of cool stuff goes on there. If you want more information, visit cacaofest.com. Cacao is spelled C-A-C-A-O. Fest is F-E-S-T, of course. cacaofest.com. May 20th is Midburn. Midburn, the Middle Eastern burn. It's in Israel. Oh man, should you find yourself in the Middle East one of these days and you're not, contract killer or, on your way to incur violence somewhere, you should definitely check out the Midburn in Israel. It was such a big deal in our community when that took off, and as successful as it was, it's a 5-day event. I don't need to break down for you what happens at a regional burn, but this one definitely is on track to becoming potentially one of the other massive regional burns, where it's getting closer and closer to calling Burning Man itself just the regional, whatever that area is. Anyway, May 20th, Midburn. Look up Midburn, M-I-D-B-U-R-N. Google it. A lot of shit about it will come up. Also, May 30th, it looks like there's the Holy Festival of Colors, Holy H-O-L-I. That's the really cool Indian festival with all the beautiful photos that you always see online. I was confused about the date, so I messaged my good friend Navjeet. Navjeet tells me via Google Hangouts, white people hold it multiple times, but Indians held it apparently on Friday, March 6th. So this one that's coming up at the end of this month, it's in Oceanside. This is a city north of San Diego. So if you're in Southern California, you can check that out. But if you want more information about the Holy Festival of Colors, you can actually Google it, H-O-L-I, Festival of Colors. And there is a central website, it's a .org, that's got a list of all these festivals from all over the country, and in fact all over the world, I believe. So go ahead and check that out. Anyway, let's get back to Lisa Dewey. Back to Burner Podcast.
Welcome home.
So explain that. So, okay, you said you were gifted the title. How did that process work? Or what happened? Who did you meet that said
it was
this is
sort of someone
who
was, I was going through this process with my grandparents, and they were like, you're totally being their death doula right now. And I was like, oh my God, you're right, I am. Yeah. And then since then, it's been my honor to help people kind of figure out how to let things go, be it weight or depression or, stuff, physical things. It's like we live in this culture that teaches us we have to have all this stuff. And it's okay, how do we learn to let that go? Mm-hmm. Because I want a life filled with people. I don't want a life filled with stuff.
Yeah.
I want those intimate relationships and those connections and that bond. I don't want this stuff. Or their anger. I don't want this anger anymore. How do I learn how to let this go? Sometimes that means we stand in a room, you get a yoga mat or a pillow, and you beat the shit out of something. And you scream and you yell and you punch something. And then maybe there's some crying. But I'm totally willing to sit there and hold space for you while you do that. That does not scare me at all.
Yeah.
Because letting that anger go, letting that anger die because it's not serving you anymore is really important.
That's interesting. Yeah, because a lot of what you're describing is like in Buddhism, one of the primary things you practice is seeking detachment, and it's almost like you're like a detachment counselor. Let me help you detach from this thing. Like you're attached to life on this physical plane of existence, and it's not many of us feel that it is not all consciousness. We're just these human bodies walking around for a while.
Right.
But that's a part of what you go through. It's almost like you're teaching in a condensed period of time how to detach from a variety of things so that you can learn detachment very quickly, so you can detach from whatever life on this plane of existence is to make that easier.
Well, and it's almost like it's not a numbing. It's not your traditional detachment, because there's so much. You actually have to feel it. And when you actually feel it, then it transforms and you can release it. Like you let those feelings kind of wash over you like a shower. It pours down you and then it washes away and then it's gone. Rather than fighting it and pushing it back and trying to hold it down and letting it pressure cook, and then it blows out sideways, and next thing you know, you're like apologizing because you freaked out on somebody and you didn't mean to do it, but it was just because you just needed to let the emotion come and go in an appropriate venue, a supportive venue. And like a lot of people just are never taught how to do that.
So do you lead people through a specific process? Like, is there specific practices that are happening while you're holding space for someone? Is there something that was taught to you, like this is what you do?
I'm one of those forever students, so I've learned a lot of different modalities. It kind of depends on the person, because everybody is so unique and what they're dealing with is so unique that you kind of take what comes to you as it comes. So sometimes that means, you do emotional freedom technique, which is a series of tappings. You just tap your body on different meridians, and that kind of tells your body it doesn't need to be in a fight or flight mode right now, and it can release whatever. Sometimes that's like some like witchy woo-woo shamanic calling and opening the directions and lighting candles and bounding on a drum. Like there's all sorts of different ways it can play out. And sometimes it's, like I said, grabbing a pillow and beating the shit out of your couch.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows up in different ways based on whatever's needed in the moment.
Like, let's say, for example, I want to let go of a relationship. And I came to you and I said, Dewey, I would like to let go of this relationship because it is toxic, but I cannot let go of her. I don't know what's happening. Like, how would you start this process?
I would start by asking you a lot of questions about like where you're at, because my sense is it's not about her. My sense is that there's something about, is your ego feeling bruised? Are you feeling really scared because you were vulnerable and that kind of backfired?
Yeah.
And it's that vulnerability hangover we spoke to in the beginning. It's like you were vulnerable and now you're like, that was a terrible idea. See all the ways it went badly. Sometimes you just need to see all the ways it went badly and see all the ways it went really well. Like, what are the good things that came out of it? How can you honor and celebrate those things so that you don't see this as a total waste of however many months or years?
Yeah. Well, let's say this. I can tell you, like, well, we won't go all the way through the process here on the show, but I just want to kind of like get a sense of like how it navigates, because I think that this is the interesting part, so people can really kind of grasp sort of like how, like what it is that you kind of do. So let's say, for example, I'll tell you for real, about my previous relationship.
Okay.
We were together for 6 years. I very much do see, like, I feel that it was a blessing that she existed in my life. I would not be here right now if it wasn't for her. But at the same time, I feel like just very much addicted to her. And it's been like 4 years, and yet there is still this like thing in my gut that it still pulls back to. So let's say, like, so for me, for example, like, where would you, what would you think, like, all right, this is what we're going to do next? Like, we're going to sit down and talk about it, or what do you need to move on?
Well, I would say, what's the, like, when you're talking about her, like, as you're going through this experience, is there a spot on your body that you feel that you're describing?
Above my stomach.
Like right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where, like, jealousy comes from. Even though I don't really actually feel like a jealous person. And, like, long story short, I started to explore, like, the polyamory community because I wanted to understand how to deal with jealousy. I'm like, oh, here's some people that have kind of figured that thing out to some extent. So, so yeah, you know, logically, I don't agree with any of it. And I do absolutely see it as a blessing. And yet there is still this, like, specter of her presence that exists in my life, where it's, like, kept me from, like, really moving on.
So I'm wondering, is there, like, because you talked a lot earlier about, like, using food as a way to, like, kind of numb things that you were feeling. Do you feel like she was kind of filling a space in you? Like, was there a thing that your relationship, was there a hole that you feel like your relationship with her kind of filled?
I think maybe she made me feel a lot more attractive. That would probably be something that I could say. I thought she was a knockout, and I felt like, oh, here's this thing. I mean, for me, the reason we lasted as long as we did was that she was incredibly intelligent, and we're just on the same page on a lot of things. We really were, like, best friends, but totally toxic for each other. Terrible for each other.
Yeah. Well,
but
relationships bring out the best in us and the worst in us. Yeah.
But I look back on it now, and I just kind of feel like now it just feels like an addiction. Like, I can't even say fully that it was, like, you know, pure love. And I wonder about that. Can I say, by the way, to the listeners who are not here watching, Dewey's body language just changed, and she got into healer mode, and her voice got softer. I'm observing all this. Like, I'm getting something out of it, but I'm doing a show. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah, thanks. I'm like,
yeah. She got into therapist mode. Yeah.
Well, it's so fascinating because, like, our energetic body, like your aura or whatever, holds on to these little pieces, right? So the reason I ask you, like, where in your body do you feel it is because your physical body, before your brain can do anything, your physical body has already started working. Your energetic body has already started working. Yeah. It's communicating all these different things to us. So it's like, we can actually identify in your physical body, okay, this is the spot that you're holding it. And then in your energetic body, we can say, okay, well, where is this being held as well? So, like, there's certain spots in your aura where it's like pieces of her are left. And so you feel those disturbances, and there's still those, like, little cords to each other of, like, you know, you had a really strong connection. So you know, you've plugged into each other in a lot of really powerful ways. You know, how do we cut, can we cut those? Can we send them back into the earth to be composted or whatever? Yeah. So that something else can use it, but it's served its purpose for you, and it's not serving you anymore. Yeah. And it sounds like the piece underneath it is that it's kind of that fear of, like, what if I'm not good enough to find someone who's as smart as she was? Or what if I'm not good enough to find somebody who's as beautiful as she was? And, like, that fear kind of stays and holds on to us for a while. Yeah. And it's that moment when we actually look at it and can really honestly say, like, you are worth it. You are enough. And then, like, pull that into your physical body and pull that into your energetic body. And when they really, really believe it and feel it, your brain will be like, fighting. Because, you know, we're fighting with ourselves. But there's that point where your brain is just like, okay, I've been warning you, but you really think that it's okay, so it's okay. Yeah. And your brain just lets go and lets you enjoy the ride.
Yeah. So when you're dealing with death specifically, like you're spending an extended period of time with somebody who's dying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going in like as hospice. Hospice is the ones going in, you know, doing the morphine, doing the things. It's more like, what can I do to help make this a celebration, a ritual? Because, you know, what I see is this should be something that's celebrated as much as life is celebrated, like birth.
Yeah.
When someone is born, everybody freaks out and gets all excited and it's so great. Watching my grandparents, believe me, I can tell you, we come full circle. So my 92-year-old grandfather, we actually watched him go through his grumpy, weird teenage year and his adolescent independent phase. And literally every time we would try to we'd be fighting up against him. And then I'd be like, Mom, Grandpa's in his teenage phase.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we were so much more patient with him and we were able to really give him the respect that we wanted to give him. And it was so much easier on us.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do we make this a ritual? Okay, so maybe we're not going to have a 16th birthday party for Grandpa who's 92.
Yeah.
But in a sense, yeah, maybe we need to have some sort of, you know, I'm going to buy some cake. We're going to eat some ice cream and we're going to just make this a joyful end to your life. Even though it's scary, even though we have no idea what's going to happen, his death isn't a death, it's a new birth. And it seems like it kind of makes it easier for the people who are left. So like in my house, between my roommate and I, someone has died every 6 months for the last 3 years. It sucks. And I'm sure people are like, fuck, that girl's got some bad stuff going on. I don't know what it is, but it's just what's happened. And we've turned it into a way to honor and celebrate and create ritual. So it's like, you know, it isn't about just like letting them go and it be done. It's about how do we, you know, take that mindfulness practice and set it into all of the things that we do and acknowledging that we miss them and yet we're celebrating them. So it's like, you know, sometimes I'll just go outside and light a candle for one of them and look up at the moon and just say thank you.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure, I mean, I can't prove this. Physics is getting close to being able to prove this. But I'm pretty sure wherever their energy goes, it may or may not be them still, but they feel that. And I feel that. So whether or not it does anything for them, I feel that. I feel better. So it's like that simple ritual changes it. Yeah. And so I think that's the spiritual leg of it comes into play. It's like, okay, so I'm atheist. I don't believe anything's going to happen after this. That's fine. But physics will show me that if I do something, my electromagnetic field will change. So if I just take the time to light a candle and tell the universe, thank you, my electromagnetic field will change.
Yeah. Yeah. Setting intentions to some extent.
Exactly.
So can someone who's dealing with death just contact you and say, I'm going to need a doula?
Yes.
Can you show up and service us?
Yes. I would love to do that. It's something I've done a lot of schooling and training around. So it's unfortunately, it's not the gift that I give to the burning community. It's actually like my job. So yeah, but yes, I love to help.
Unfortunate. I mean,
I guess fortunately. I mean, the doctors study for years, and you don't walk up to a doctor and be like, "Hey, doc, I got this," and like drop your pants. So I mean, I guess in the same way, I do that as well. It's yes, I want to help you. And
wait, I'm not supposed to do that to doctors?
Apparently not.
Oh. Wow,
they usually say,
doctors.
call my assistant and make an appointment.
Yeah.
So I'm not cool enough to have an assistant in an appointment book yet, but I have an appointment book, but I mean, I love to hold space for people while they do that, and we make it a whole process, and so it's not just it's not just like okay, you're fixed, you're healed, you're back to normal. Yeah. Never worry about it again, but it gets to be this beautiful journey.
Does the person who is dying have to be on board with what's happening? Do they have to agree to have the doula, or can somebody else from the family say, I would like a death doula?
I mean, yes, they kind of have to be on board.
Okay.
If that's the case, it's usually not about the person who's dying. It's about the person who's asking me for their help. So if they're coming in and saying, oh, I really want you to come sit with Uncle Jack, and Uncle Jack's like, I'm fine, then I'm like, okay, then I'm supposed to sit with you, and what do you and I want to work on? Like, how do we want to do this? Yeah. So
can you give an example of a previous, I don't know, case, something where you end up dealing with like the person who is holding space rather than the person who is actually dying?
I would say, so I'm going to use not an actual death, but like a practicing for death situation. And I'm pretty sure she'll be okay with me.
You can leave names and stuff out. Yeah.
So a friend of mine has been going through a beautiful process of learning to let go. And she has been exploring this in so many different ways. And one of them was, she's quite the elaborate collector, to the point where she's a self-proclaimed hoarder, and she's trying to let that go. So we've done beautiful ceremonies around, you know, the different things that she wants to let go. So she picks something, and then we kind of set the container. So at Burning Man, we got a bunch of people together, and we created a whole ritual around the thing that she wanted to let go. And she got to cry, and she got to honor the thing that she was letting go. And a bunch of us got to hold space for her while she did it. And then after that, we've done check-ins. So I get to be her accountability buddy. What are ways that what is something you've let go of this week? Okay, you have a big thing that you're letting go of. How can I support you? And what is this going to look like? What do you need from me to make this happen? To really do it the way that you want to do it, and not just be like, screw it, I'm throwing it in the trash. It's like, okay, this thing had meaning. It served its purpose, and now I'm letting it go. How do I do that with mindfulness, with intention, with grace and ease? And so we've just spent, ever since before Burning Man, we've been practicing this thing of letting go. And it's been fascinating to see how much easier it's been getting for her. So the goal is that by the time, if real death ever comes, then she knows what to do. She knows, you know, the rituals, the ceremonies, the honoring, the allowing herself to feel that discomfort. She knows all of the things that will help make that happen.
Yeah. So you were saying that there's 3 legs to the things that you're passionate about. You know, health and nutrition, healing.
So there's the physical body, so like health and nutrition, the spiritual body, which is the ritual and ceremony, and then the energetic body, which is, you know, what's going on in the unseen world around you, which kind of, I mean, your energetic body really ties in with your kind of emotional, psychological well-being. So
elaborate on that. Talk about the 3rd leg.
Well, they kind of they all tied together. But the 3rd leg is that moment when you said, you know, how do I let go of my girlfriend? And I kind of lean in, and I'm like, really, I'm really taking you in, and I'm really looking what's going on for you. I'm trying to feel into it and see how are you doing? Like, what's really going on? Because a lot of times your words are saying something and everything else is saying something else. It's like, my godmother always says, how you doing? And I'm like, I'm fine. And she's like, oh, so you're fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional? And I'm like, oh my God, how did you know? How did you know?
Ah, grandma's a gangster.
Yeah. So it's like, that emotional, energetic part is the part that I'm looking for. It's like, and I don't do it unless I'm asked. I'm not going to like be nosing around in your space. You ask, you know, what can I do? And so I looked, and that's a huge lesson I learned. Because the thing is, you're kind of just wasting your breath if the person is not asking for it, if they're not ready for it. Yeah. I've learned that a couple ways where people are like, you can't just jump into someone's space, and I'm like, oh, you can't?
Yeah.
Okay. yeah, I guess that is kind of rude. It's like I'm some peeping Tom, like peering through the window, like, what do you got going on?
No, so have you always been like obsessed with helping people ever since you were little?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where does that come from, do you think?
Oh, God. I don't know. I could Psych 101 myself, or in circles around that one. I think I genuinely like people. Like, this happy, friendly girl in front of you, really, genuinely, this is me. Like, I really, really love people. And I think I'm really interested in seeing people be authentically themselves. And that means the good, the bad, the pretty, the ugly, the funky, the weird. And when I see that someone, like, I can see past that shield that they put up, and I see inside, and I can see that gem of a person. I want that. Like, I want to talk to that. I want to interact with that.
Do you, like, because I can tell you this, like, I have observed over and over, and we know there's actually science behind this and psychology behind this as well, that the more you give, the more you help heal people, the more you're there for people, you're giving people emotionally, it does make you happier. Like, they're finding that like doing charity work makes people happier. Gifting makes people happier. And I know that that's one of your favorite principles there. And I always wonder, like, because I very much feel the same way. I've always enjoyed helping people. I've always loved it. It's always like just the ultimate, most blissful thing, which makes people like us terrible at making money, I feel like. And I wonder, like, is there just a certain wiring that a lot of people like us have? Or is that something that you learn at some point because you get positive reinforcement from it, from some sort of a younger childhood experience? Like, can you get somebody who has typically not been that way to switch?
Yes.
You're very confident about this.
Yes. Well, because I've seen it. I do a lot of work with a group called Shakti Rising, and they do women's leadership development, education, and recovery. And I have literally watched women come in on all the different places of the spectrum and learn to be powerful leaders who are creating massive change in the world. They heal, they grow, they give, and it's just fantastic to watch. So I know without a doubt in my mind that it's totally possible.
So they come in as, like, not necessarily givers, and then they're taught to give?
Yes.
And that changes their general perspective on things.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing is, like, for me, I'm incredibly selfish. I'm so selfish. I always do what I want to do, when I want to do it, how I want to do it. The thing is like, learning those boundaries for myself were my self-care. Like, I had to learn, this is what I need in order to keep on par, like to maintain the type of person that I want to be. And it was like filling a cup. So it's like every time I would give to myself, I would fill my cup. My cup would be get fuller and fuller and fuller. And then at some point, my cup starts to overflow.
Yeah.
And that overflow is everything that I give to people. So my ability to be generous and give as much as I give comes from the fact that I take care of myself. And that's why I love radical self-reliance. It's like my self-reliance, my taking care of myself means that I have just that much more to give to the rest of the world.
Yeah. It's interesting. What you're describing right there, that was like one of the huge, life changes that I had. Going through the personal growth process, one of the many things that being with my ex facilitated for me in my life is I became aware of my passive aggression. And passive aggression is something that comes from really thinking that you're a really good person, and you're giving and you're giving and you're giving, and you're not taking care of you. So what you end up doing is your brain, your body, your subconscious is like, dude, fuck that. I have needs. So I'm just going to take that shit.
Yeah.
And I will do that by sabotaging things. And it's really fascinating. Like, that's one of the big things, like, I've always told people, like, just you need to do things for you.
Yeah.
ASAP.
Yeah.
The more you think you're doing things only for other people, the more passive aggressive it's going to make you, and the more difficult it's going to make you operating through your life.
Yeah. Well, and passive aggressive is such an interesting thing because verbally, you're saying one thing. Oh, you're so great and I love you so much and this is so wonderful. Energetically, it's like, you can go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we feel that and it becomes very difficult to interact with. It's like, I'm very confused by dealing with you right now. All my like evolutionarily developed awesome senses are saying, I need to go fuck myself. But you're telling me the opposite.
Yeah.
What do I do? And it creates this weird cognitive dissonance where you're just like, don't know what to do with it. So it's like, okay.
Yeah. And that's the fucked up part about that is that overwhelmingly, and it's not just passive aggressive people, it's just pretty much any like problems, for lack of a better description, baggage that we have, it pretty much exists because we're not aware of it. Because if we're aware of it, logic would dictate that we would stop doing that. But on some level, we're not aware of it. And it's like with passive aggression, like people don't realize that they're being passive aggressive. They're like, I'm doing good. I'm being good. I don't understand why my relationships keep falling apart. Mm-hmm. You know?
It's because it takes stop, check in.
Yeah.
Get present. What's going on? Look around. Okay.
The work you were doing with the what was the chakra?
Shakti Rising.
Shakti Rising. Is this connected to America's Finest City? TEDx?
No, it's not. So
how does that? Tell me about those two separate things.
Okay, so Shakti Rising, I actually worked as staff for a year, and then I've been volunteering ever since. I love the organization, and
it's a nonprofit.
It's a nonprofit that does, like I said, women's leadership development, education, and recovery. So there's two ways that they go about that. So there's an in-depth 2 to 3 year long recovery program. And it's recovery of self. So anything that you want to come and deal with, addiction, eating disorders, trauma, depression, anxiety, general loss of self-purpose. What generally happens is that there are almost always multiple coexisting conditions. So you can never really treat someone based on like the one thing. Like you're not just your depression. You're this amazing man who does this great work, who has these great passions, who helps all these people, and depression is a part of it. So it's like you have all these other things going on. So we want to treat you as a whole person. Yeah. So the recovery program really says like, let's do some really core, deep healing work so that we can show up as the people that we want to show up as and not our diagnosis. Okay. And then so that's the depth program. And the breadth program is an education and leadership development program that really helps women learn how to be solid leaders in the world and create social change. This is, we see that there are these systemic problems. We want to fix them and change them. And so we do the internal work so that we can do the external work.
How did you get involved with this organization?
I met the founder. I was living in Mammoth and she came to visit for a summer and kind of fell in love with everything she was talking about. And I realized it was time to stop hiding in the mountains, which was awesome. I loved it, but it was time to like step up and start playing a bigger game. And
wow, you were like Rambo.
Right, am I
like out there?
Yes, I'm like Rambo.
Doing something with like nature, and they come out, they're like, Dewey, we need you. We need you to come help the women.
Totally. Yes.
How did you get involved with America's Finest City, TEDx?
My brother decided he wanted to put on an event here in San Diego, and so I helped with they're TED Talks. So any of the TED Talks that you've seen online, the TEDx's are specifically related to regions, and they're community held ones. And so we're America's Finest City, which is San Diego. And I was helping him with his, and he was like, you should do a women's specific one. So I do the TEDx America's Finest City women's event. We're actually going to have it, the next one's the end of May, so May 30th. And really what we do is we highlight kind of the awesomeness of San Diego. Yeah. Like, you can come, they're 18 minutes or less speeches. Each of our speakers is working in a field specifically impacting women and girls. They're not all women speakers because men are doing awesome work for women and girls as well. Yeah. So we include the men and the women. We all get together and we try to figure out how do we, create a better world that we want to thrive in, and how do we do it specifically in San Diego?
And that's coming up in May.
That is.
How do you, is there a website that people can go to for more information?
There will be. The TEDx AFC site is under construction right now.
Okay.
So we just finalized the logo for this year. The theme this year is momentum. And so we're getting all the stuff, all the speaker applications and sponsorship packets and everything are going on online over the next week or two. So.
How many attendees are you planning for?
Our last event was 300 and we're planning on 200 this time.
Going smaller.
Yeah, we wanted to make it a little bit more intimate so that we could have more community interactions. Like we want the people who are coming to really get to, participate a little bit differently than just sitting back and absorbing a bunch of speakers' information. We want them to talk and interact and mingle and everything like that. So
that's interesting. There's a running theme with you of femininity, I've noticed.
Yes.
There's a lot of, and it's the first place my mind goes to is my observations and feelings about the balance of masculinity and femininity. And femininity tends to be more our healer and protective side. And it doesn't necessarily mean, for listeners, I'm not talking about man versus woman, because we both have, not both, all genders and sexes have all those energies. We have both energies. It's just that with you, it seems like definitely lean towards the feminine side, like your missions in life, things that make you passionate. And even just on this physical plane, you're looking at, women's organizations and empowering women. Where is that something that you've been aware of, or is just...
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. I'm very much aware that I have a women focus. I grew up in Mammoth Lake's the ski area, and there are 3 guys to every 1 girl in that town.
That sucks.
For not me.
For me, I'm never going to Mammoth.
So there's this very interesting thing that happens when there's a shortage of women. So you're kind of treated differently. There's also this element of, if we get 2 or 3 feet of snow last night, I still have to wake up. I have to dig out my car. I have to stack wood. I have to start the fire. Like, there's just these practical things that have to happen regardless of if I'm a male or a female. Stuff has to get done.
Yeah.
So when I moved to San Diego, the first time I came down here for college, and people kept telling me, you can't do that, you're a girl. I actually couldn't understand what they were talking about, because I was tougher than most of the guys that I was interacting with. Like, I could do all of the things and a little bit more than what they were doing. So I didn't understand.
I'm assuming this was long before you discovered the burner community.
Dude, burner community is so awesome for hardcore chicks.
There's a lot of alpha ass females in our community. I mean, like, chicks are running things here for sure.
Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing is when you say, I'm letting go of these gender stereotypes and I'm actually just letting people show up as who they want to show up as. Crazy stuff gets built, and it's blinky, and it's fun, and it's interactive, and it's playful, and it's pretty, and
then we set it on fire,
good, and then we burn it to the ground because we gotta let stuff die. Come in full circle.
Yeah.
Like, but I couldn't understand the female box I was being forced into when I got down here, and it was really, really challenging. My mom was a single mom raising 2 kids in the mountains. My dad was not around. She did all of these things, and yet everyone was saying, women can't do that. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I just don't get it. And then as I started looking into it, I was like, whoa, wait a second. This is actually like a really big issue that doesn't make sense here. Yeah. And that sort of fueled my passion for what I do now, because I was like, you're not being logical and rational, and I don't like that. So,
yeah.
And
it is a peculiar thing, because a lot of it does go back to for lack, again, a scarcity of vagina. So it's almost like a lot of society would like to put you in a box in order to access your box. You know, it's like the strangest thing. And I feel like a lot of like old school chivalry, like you have a lot of people say like chivalry's dead, but like a lot of chivalry was really about control.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, being like opening doors and being polite, that's just being a cool person.
Yeah.
That's not chivalry, quote unquote.
Well, and why am I denied the right to be generous to you in that way?
Yeah.
Like, maybe I would like to open the door for you because you're awesome. I got there first and I want to do something nice for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, and then if you get there first, you want to do something nice for me, I'm totally going to accept that. I love it. Open the door for me.
So what was different about San Diego versus Mammoth then? Because in Mammoth you were saying you had to do all these physical things anyway.
Yeah.
So were the men more accepting? I mean, I don't know if accepting is the word. Was there more of an equality there? Due to the challenge of dealing with the elements?
I think and this has been, you know, however many years of me kind of observing this and watching it. In Mammoth, what I realized was a lot of women, we kind of push down our femininity and we embrace our masculinity and we show up tougher, stronger, you know, like more badass. And we lose kind of that beautiful, sweet, gentle nature.
Yeah.
I also noticed the women friendships in that town are like none I have ever been able to find anywhere else.
Wow.
So it's like the scarcity of vagina thing is there, but also there's this kindred spirit thing that is so beautiful. Like, I am still in touch with all of the women that I grew up with, all of the women that I became friends with as I got older. We check in all the time. There's this powerful sisterhood that is just so amazing. And the only time it ever gets shaken is when it comes to scarcity of resources, and mainly around the attention to males. So it's a really fascinating thing to watch the psychology and the sociology of that all play out. It's like, there isn't enough vagina, there isn't enough penis or attention from men, or there, you know, like, he has the thing that I want, which really this is how it all started. Not penis. Men had the access to resources, so women had to start fighting each other to compete to get the resources because they weren't allowed those resources. And so now that we are starting to create a world where, you know, women are getting paid more, they're getting more independence, it's interesting to watch how the sisterhood starts to grow and where the sisterhood starts to break off and the competition sets in.
Yeah, yeah. And so it was different in San Diego in what way? Is there more women here? Is there more access to vagina?
It's a little bit more, it's just more isolated. It's more segmented.
Yeah.
You have to really seek out those friendships, that connection, that community. I think the Burning Man community is amazing in that these women are coming together and they're starting to connect and create that magic. But you can see, I can see where they're still kind of like, can I trust you? I don't know if I can trust you. And it's probably because they've been burned really solidly.
Yeah. Not in the good way. Not in the Burning Man way.
No, yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. They've been wounded, really, really painfully wounded by other women. And so they're like not sure how they feel about you, and, oh, you're going to steal my boyfriend, or, you know, they're going to take my art project or whatever. And then there's that moment where that gets let go and they just show up and we just get to connect, and it's just fucking magic.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. You can't really not be a feminist in this community, I feel like.
Oh no, yeah, you can.
You can.
Yeah, you can.
See it? Do you see it a lot?
I think it's so deeply ingrained in in us, in all of us, that I don't think people even realize when it's happening. I think you take two newborn babies and you put one in pink and one in blue, and you just watch what people do. People will go up to the blue baby and they will go, yeah, slugger, hey, moo, and make little punchy fists and like, yeah, you're so tough. And they'll walk up to the girl or the pink and then, oh, you're so sweet. Look how pretty you are. And it's like, we don't even realize we're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
which is hilarious because pink was like, what is it? Like this like the 30s or 40s is when it started being associated with girls because Macy's had a lot of extra fabric.
Yeah, there was actually a point when boys were pink and girls were blue, and it switched.
Yeah. Pink was like seen as another shade of red. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You go to the UK and it's still a lot of men wear pink left and right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more of a here thing.
It is. Which just goes to tell you, it's just totally this thing that we've made up, and now we're like forcing ourselves to conform to these roles that really don't fit us.
Yeah. So I guess what you're basically saying that the most important step that people can take is just not make assumptions about what somebody is into or how they'd like to be treated based on what your perceptions are of their gender or sex.
Yeah. Well, and I love that that's what our culture does. Like the Burning Man culture does that. It's everybody shows up however they want to show up. You can look like a scary, studded, spiked, terrifying badass and be the sweetest little kitten inside.
Yeah.
I have no idea. You can look like a total rainbow sparkle pony and be a total badass. Like we have no idea what's going on because, you know, we present this outward thing and it's like, okay, the outward thing tells me some stuff, but what I really want to know is who are you?
Yeah. We kind of like to challenge that too, is the thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we totally love to.
We totally are just like at Utopia at one point we're standing at the Black Company camp and my friend Navji is just like, I don't know, just completely out of nowhere he's like, so I see, I just realized that we're standing in a camp where everybody is dressed in a manner that's supposed to be very threatening, and yet it's some of the sweetest, nicest people I've ever met in my life.
Black Company is a great example of that. Yeah.
And they're like going out of their way, like middle fingers in the air about whatever your perceptions are about what they might be. That's really interesting.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing is that Burning Man culture blurs those lines. Doesn't matter your gender, your anything. You get to be whatever you want to be whenever you want to be it. And we're gonna maybe not like you, but we're gonna accept you. Yeah. And that's cool.
So what is your next project? Are you just knee deep in the TEDx thing right now? Do you have something else planned for afterwards?
So I would say the two projects that I'm working on right now are just kind of building out my energy medicine practice of like the death doula and any of the energy healings that I'm working on. So any like Reiki or pranic healing that people need. And
you don't have a website for that yet?
I don't have a website. I know. And the best part about
you need to get on that, dude.
My boyfriend he builds websites for his job. He's
That's ridiculous.
So mad at me right now.
Yeah. How do you have that at home and you don't have a website?
I know. He's been on me too. And
it's like if my girlfriend was a chef and I haven't eaten in a month.
I know. Exactly. So
why are you dragging your feet? Is this like a woman, I am woman, I'm going to do this on my own thing?
No, this is sometimes we get in our own way. And
you're being a perfectionist?
No, actually, I'm being... Wow, well, let's have just an openly vulnerable moment. I'm being terrified. I'm being terrified of the fact that, like, if I actually if I actually make a website, then this is really happening. Then I am really saying, like, which is funny because I'm already doing it. Like, I'm already helping people and seeing people and doing it. But if I have a website, then it's real.
Yeah.
And when it's real, then it's real. And I'm really doing this. And and it's like, that is so terrifying.
Yeah. Well, since you said in your pre-interview questionnaire that you're okay with being bugged by random people, what we're going to do is we're going to give people your email address. Okay. And if people want to contact you and start bugging you, like...
Bug away.
You know what? It's just going to be real whether you have the website or not. So you might as well get the website so you don't have to keep responding with emails, answering to people like what it is that you can offer and what the stuff are. So the email address is Ms. Dewey. Oh, I like that. The feminist Ms. M-I-S.
Only one S. M-I-S.
D-E-W-E-Y @gmail.com.
Yeah.
Okay. So if people have questions about list the menu of things that you are planning to offer once you have a website.
If they have any questions on health and nutrition, on the death doula and learning how to let go, if they have any desire for energy healings or energy work, be it Reiki or pranic or emotional freedom technique or any of those, if they want to get involved in TEDx Women, again, the event is May 30th. And if...
I just want to chat.
If they just want to chat.
I kind of want to chat.
I like chatting.
It's a little late at night. I kind of like randomly feel like emailing Dewey and seeing what she's up to.
You're more than welcome to ask me any question you want.
And then I am encouraging the listeners to bug the shit out of you about getting that fucking website going.
website will be going.
That's what's going to
You
happen.
will be the first person to know when it's done.
We'll do that. And I will critique it.
Perfect. Yeah. And it's, it's this funny thing where like we are our own worst enemy all the time, right? It's like, get out of your own way and actually it's okay. Do the thing. So.
Do the thing. Pull the trigger.
Yeah.
All right. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having
it.
me.
It's been awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
There it is. There it is, the official interview. After we stopped recording, by the way, Lisa gave me, I don't know what the word is, an energy cleansing. I don't know if it was a cleansing. She attempted to disconnect some of the cords I still had connected to my ex. I felt something. Something felt different. I can't tell you for sure. I mean, I don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about her, on purpose at least. So it's hard to say now how effective it's been after these weeks have passed by since we recorded this interview. But I definitely felt sort of a lightness as she went through that energy. I don't know. Do I call it cleansing? I don't know if I call it cleansing. Whatever it is. She did a thing where she cut energy cords and anyway. Thank you so much to Lisa Dewey for joining us here on the show. It was really amazing. You can tweet me directly at Mr. Arash. That's MRARASH. And when discussing the show, please do use the hashtag BurnerPodcast. Leave some reviews on iTunes. That would be pretty cool of you. You can also catch us on TuneIn Radio, on Stitcher. If you go to burnerpodcast.com, there's a shit ton of ways to listen to the show. Our intermission music is by Duckman. Check out his music at duckmansd.bandcamp.com. And if you're a musician in the community, send us a link to your stuff, blah, blah, blah. You know what to do. Use the contact page at burnerpodcast.com. The Burner Podcast theme song is America's Horse with No Name. I almost forgot how to say horse. Remix, produced by Joman. Check out his stuff at soundcloud.com/DJ Joman. This episode is produced by Meg King. If you have questions or suggestions for future guests, shoot them over to Meg King. She is on Twitter at @ThatMegKing. Our online editor is Alpi. She writes and curates the blog and can be reached on Twitter at @burner_podcast. Alpi had a little bit of an injury in the past week. We are, of course, thinking about her nonstop. Our cute, adorable little Alpi. If you want to send her messages of love, she will happily receive them. That's at @burner_podcast. The underscore is very important. Or as always, you can use the contact form at burnerpodcast.com. Hope you'll join us next time. We release new episodes on the first and third Wednesdays of the month. So until next time, love and light and all that other crap. Good night.